Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the global threat matrix. We're going to objectively map out the systemic risks and deep geopolitical fractures that are pushing our world toward potential conflict. Let's completely strip away those sensational clickbait headlines you see every day and look purely at the data, the historical precedents, and the hard strategic realities of our modern world to understand exactly where the real pressure points lie.
It's a heavy start, I know, but we really need to confront this ultimate uncomfortable question head-on. Could a third world war actually happen? To answer that, we've got to look way past the daily news cycle and analyze the deep, systemic shifts happening right beneath our feet. Think back for a second to the early months of 1914. Europe was enjoying literally unprecedented prosperity. Globalization was booming, tech was rapidly advancing, and all the top experts confidently claimed that a massive continental war was just economically impossible. But a single, unexpected spark in Sarajevo shattered that entire illusion of peace in a matter of weeks. Today, the geopolitical tectonic plates are shifting once again, and frankly, the parallels to that pre-1914 world are deeply unsettling.
You see, our baseline status quo for the last 80 years has been what historians call the long peace. Basically, this is the period since 1945 where the world's major superpowers just haven't fought each other directly. We built the UN, signed all sorts of treaties, and tied our economies so tightly together that everyone just assumed the cost of total warfare had become way too high. Right? Well, history teaches us a pretty chilling lesson here. Peace is often just the fragile, quiet space between storms. And right now, the guardrails keeping this peace intact are being tested like never before.
Let's move into Section 1, the theoretical engine, looking specifically at the great power rivalry.
To truly grasp the mechanics driving modern geopolitical tension, we have to look at a concept known as Thucydides' trap. It sounds academic, but it's really just a recurring historical pattern where an established, dominant power becomes deeply fearful of a rapidly rising power. And when this happens, history shows us that war becomes highly probable. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing this dynamic play out incredibly vividly in the Indo-Pacific. For decades, the United States has held global maritime dominance and anchored the international financial system. But over the last 30 years, China has experienced this absolutely meteoric economic, technological, and military rise. So what we're watching right now is a classic, textbook case of an established superpower brushing up against a rising one.
And the absolute most critical flashpoint in all of this rivalry? Taiwan. Now, this isn't just some abstract political disagreement. It is a vital geostrategic bottleneck. For China, control over Taiwan represents national rejuvenation and a way to break out of what it views as an encirclement by U.S.-aligned nations. But for the U.S. and its allies, a free Taiwan secures open global sea lanes and, crucially, protects the supply chains of the advanced semiconductors that literally power everything from the smartphone in your pocket to advanced military hardware. The real danger here is that the margins for error are basically zero. A single miscalculation, say a mid-air collision between fighter jets or just a stray missile, could trigger a rapid cycle of escalation that neither Washington nor Beijing could easily escape.
Which brings us to Section 2, active and volatile theaters, specifically the European fracture and the Middle Eastern cauldron.
While the Indo-Pacific is definitely a massive future flashpoint, we've got incredibly active volatility happening right now. The European security landscape permanently fractured in the early 2020s, completely erasing that comfortable post-Cold War assumption that large-scale conventional warfare in Europe was over. If we break this down step by step, we can see the chilling reality of what strategists call horizontal escalation. Imagine Step 1, a high-tech drone or a long-range missile simply malfunctions. Step 2, it accidentally strikes inside a NATO member state like Poland or Lithuania. Step 3, boom. This triggers NATO's Article 5, meaning an attack on one is an attack on all. And finally, Step 4, we are suddenly in an immediate, direct hot war between the world's largest nuclear-armed powers. Literally, a simple technological glitch in a volatile zone transforms a regional dispute into a global conflagration in an instant.
When you map out the globe's specific vulnerabilities, it is wild to see exactly how interconnected they all are. Take the Strait of Hormuz, for example. A conflict there instantly chokes off over 20% of the globe's petroleum. We've already touched on the Taiwan Strait's massive role in semiconductors. And then there's the Suwalki Gap, which is a highly vulnerable land corridor absolutely crucial for connecting NATO allies. If a localized conflict blocks off even one of these bottlenecks, the global economy faces an instant, catastrophic shock. We're talking skyrocketing energy prices, massive inflation surges, and global powers being forced into immediate, high-tension military interventions just to protect their own economic survival. And, when you cram multiple foreign militaries into the same tight spaces, an unintended clash becomes incredibly probable.
Now let's look at Section 3, the unseen catalysts, diving into hyperspace, outer space, and artificial intelligence.
Before you start picturing tanks rolling across borders, we really need to understand that modern battlefields have expanded into entirely invisible domains. If a global conflict were to break out today, it would begin completely silently, long before a single physical bullet is ever fired. The opening salvos would be devastating cyber attacks squarely targeting critical civilian infrastructure. By shutting down power grids, compromising local water treatment facilities, and completely paralyzing financial networks, an adversary creates maximum internal chaos. The whole goal is to totally cripple a nation's ability to function at home, basically preventing them from ever effectively mobilizing their military in the first place.
And simultaneously, the war goes kinetic way up in low Earth orbit. Think about it. Modern militaries are 100% dependent on satellites for GPS navigation, secure communications, and crucial early missile warning systems. If a nation deploys anti-satellite weapons to blind its enemy, it creates a massive, high-speed debris cloud. This cloud then triggers a disastrous chain reaction, shredding both military and civilian satellites alike. In a matter of hours, our orbital infrastructure is wiped out, effectively plunging the modern world straight back into the pre-digital age. No GPS, no cell service, no global coordination.
Which brings us to the ultimate wildcard of modern warfare, artificial intelligence. When you combine AI with autonomous drone swarms and hypersonic missiles, things traveling at over 5 times the speed of sound, the window for human decision-making shrinks from hours down to literally mere seconds. Imagine for a second an AI command system misinterpreting a standard military exercise, or even just a weird technical radar glitch, as an incoming strike. It could automatically initiate a massive retaliatory counterattack before a human commander even blinks, let alone has the chance to verify the data. The speed of the technology is quite literally outpacing human judgment.
This leads us to our final part, Section 4, the existential stakes, focusing on the nuclear reality and the verdict.
We finally have to slow down and confront the grim reality of the ultimate deterrent. And the contrast between eras here is honestly stark. During the Cold War, there was this terrifying bilateral stability. Two powers, the US and the Soviet Union, were kept in check by mutually assured destruction, or MAD. They both knew that firing a weapon meant total self-annihilation. But in our modern era, we are now living in a complex tripolar age with the US, Russia, and China all actively modernizing their arsenals. Even more concerning is the development of smaller so-called tactical nuclear weapons. This creates a deeply dangerous illusion for military strategists who might falsely believe they can use a low-yield nuclear weapon on an isolated battlefield without triggering an uncontrollable global thermonuclear war. History strongly suggests that once that nuclear threshold is crossed, the fog of war makes de-escalation almost impossible.
So we arrive at our final verdict. Could World War III actually happen? The objective, analytical answer, based on everything we've mapped out today, is yes, it absolutely could. Now, while global war is by no means inevitable, the systemic guardrails keeping us safe are wearing incredibly thin. In fact, the probability of a major global conflict is higher today than it has been at any point since the height of the Cuban Missile Crisis back in 1962. The old geopolitical blocks are fragmenting, and rigid, aggressive military posturing is frequently replacing careful diplomacy. But I really want to leave you with this final, vital thought. Acknowledging these massive risks is not about defeatism, it's about profound vigilance. As a key strategic concept captures so perfectly, if a global conflict happens, it won't be because of some unavoidable twist of fate. It will be the result of deliberate choices, uncurbed ambitions, and a collective failure of diplomacy. The machinery of global destruction is meticulously maintained and fully assembled right now. It is entirely up to today's leaders, thinkers, and citizens to ensure that the spark is never struck. So what steps do you think are absolutely most critical right now to ensure the long peace doesn't just become a forgotten chapter in our history? Think about that, and keep seeking to understand the incredibly complex systems running our